Tommy Bogue was 7 years old when his parents brought him to People's Temple.
They had these little kids, maybe 6, 7 years old, go into this room and then make them grab hold of these electrode things, and they start turning up the electricity on, and they put a microphone next to the door, and you start hearing them screaming, you know, I mean, it sounds, I mean, it's bloody chilling. It's the only way I can really put it.
After critical articles appeared in the San Francisco Examiner, Jones staged a demonstration.
All of these allegations are totally untrue. I'm principled and dedicated to my people, and they are also committed to the Christian ethic, the Judeo-Christian ethic of service. Certainly anyone who wants to investigate our organization, we're more than open to it by any honestly inquiring group or otherwise.
So intimidating was Jones's demonstration that the newspaper canceled its series of articles on People's Temple.
I think that Jones probably was an unhappy person. Deep down inside, he didn't believe in himself. And so he was constantly having to attain more money to be more secure, more political friends. Jones would freak out when anybody would speak against the church or him.
Jim hated men. He was very insecure. And only women became the top aides to him.
According to Debbie Layton, in the book In My Father's House, Jones appropriated her brother Larry's first wife, Carolyn. When Larry remarried, Jones also seduced his second wife, Karen.
Because
Ex-Temple member Richard Clark.
I think that Jones was burning up with lust. Matter of fact, he finally told her one night, he finally said that he would like to have sex with everybody in the temple, you know.
Every single woman that was on the planning commission was approached by Jim Jones and forced into a sexual relationship. And I consider it rape. I was raped by Jim Jones.
In late 1977, New West magazine printed a blistering expose of People's Temple. Grace Stone sued for custody of her 6-year-old son, who Jones claimed was his child. Jones reacted to his difficulties by moving Temple members 6,000 miles to Jonestown, a settlement he had started earlier in Guyana. Here, Jones would have to answer to no man. Jonestown would be a world unto itself.
Flour, rice, black-eyed peas, more peas. You have different containers around the place. We couldn't go through all the tremendous inventory they built up. Kool-Aid.
What a swing! What liberation brings!
The first time I went there in October of 1977, I came back and I said I saw a paradise. They had their own electricity. They had their own generators. They had the most perfect medical setup I have ever seen. Everything was immaculate. Everything was good and everything was decent.
When fascist terror brings concentration camps or brings massive food riots, you have a home.
You just can't imagine that all the hundreds of us here are so extremely happy. I wish I could describe the whole thing to you, but it's hard. But I just must say this. I can't help but say that none of this would have been possible had it not been for Jim Jones.
I thank you, Jim. You have certainly made a way for us, and everybody seemed to be so happy. I am pleased. Thank you, Jim.
I don't want to go back to the States because this place is better.
That was pretty much an ideal situation because, like, you could see progress happening. You know, you had a sense of you're creating a town. But then when Jones came down there, that all changed. They started having the long meetings until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You started having 12-hour work days, and the discipline started getting into the extremes. And, I mean, it just became a hellhole.
When I got to Jonestown, the first thing Jones asked me was, how did I want to die? And he asked me, did I want to die fighting? Did I want to take the portion? Then I knew what I was up against then. It was death that Jones had chosen for us.
As more people packed into Jonestown, food supplies ran low. Jones controlled millions in temple funds, but refused to spend it on food or adequate housing. Isolated in the jungle, news from outside came to him in radioed fragments. His fears and suspicions multiplied.
Quite likely I'll be there for both.
For 900 people, life became an answer to one man's whim. Jonestown was their entire reality. Jim Jones was their God.
I woke up and I had a constriction, I guess, in my chest or in my stomach, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe at all. I didn't even call on Father. I thought of him, and it all was right. Thanks, Father.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father.
Around John was just like a force field of evil. It would even take your mind, just like you couldn't even think when you was around John, because it's the force that he had built up.
The most frightening things about Jonestown were that there were armed guards surrounding the camp at all times, and while you worked in the field, they watched you, and you weren't allowed to speak to your neighbor, and you had to work double time. And Jim Jones's voice went over the loudspeakers 24 hours a day, while you ate, while you worked in the field, and while you slept.
When Grace Stone carried her custody battle for her son John into Guyanese courts, Jones was beside himself.
If by any chance you would make a mistake to try to come in and take any one of us, we will not let you. You will die. You will have to take anybody over all of our dead bodies.